Christianity derived in or originated out of Africa.
That's not true. Christianity did not originate in Africa. Not true. Christianity did not originate in Africa. If you do some research, you'll find that Christianity did not get into Africa until the 1st century from a man named Mark the Evangelist, also known as John Mark, who set out to spread Christianity through Egypt and Africa and later set up the Church of Alexandria. This was the first introduction of Christianity into Africa. Now, many people will say that Christianity originated in Africa because one of the oldest Bibles in the world is located in Ethiopia. But most people don't ask, how did they get this Bible? Who did it come from? And who wrote it? Now, when we do our research, we'll find that Christianity didn't enter into Ethiopia until the 4th century, and that the Bible that the Ethiopians have, known as the Ethiopian Bible, wasn't created until the 4th century. And this came by way of a European who stumbled into Ethiopia by the name of Prometheus. And he started to spread Christianity throughout Ethiopia, and later on ended up converting one of the Ethiopian kings known as Azana. At the time when Prometheus met Azana, Azana was just a child, and Prometheus later became one of Azana's mentors. He influenced him to become a Christian and to study Christianity. Later on, Azana became one of the kings of Ethiopia and made Christianity the state's religion. In doing this, Azana forced all Ethiopians studying any traditional religions or worship systems to convert over to Christianity. Now, at this time, the Bible didn't exist, though. Christianity was only being spread through oral tradition or oral translation, so from mouth to ear. So you had these people who had these stories or hearsay of what we now call Christianity. So they started to share these stories as well as write letters and write small books or pamphlets about them. These eventually made it into Africa or Ethiopia and to the king Azana. Azana, being a newly made Christian, took these pamphlets, took these books, and took these stories and comprised it into what we now call the Bible or the Ethiopian Bible. It's also important to note that Christianity of that time was not the same as Christianity of today, and that the Bible or the Ethiopian Bible of that time was not the same as the Bible that we study today. And you can even see this in the fact that the Bible that most people read today, or that is widely accepted, only has 66 books, while the Ethiopian Bible has 88 books, or contains what is known as the Apocrypha, which is not accepted as biblical today, and some will even say is made up or is a false books, or go as far as to say that Apocrypha means false books, which isn't true. So we have to be very careful when we say that Christianity started in Egypt or Africa or Ethiopia or anything of that nature, because yes, you can find similar stories, because some of the African or Egyptian stories or Ethiopian stories were used in the modern day Bible or the Ethiopian Bible, but that does not mean that the religions or the practices or the cultures were the same. So yes, Christianity as we know it today is a European's religion and did not originate in Africa, though many believe that because Ethiopia was never colonized and that you can find Christianity in Ethiopia, that it means that Christianity started in Africa or started in Ethiopia, when it is actually the other way around. Christianity made it into Ethiopia very early on, and the Ethiopian state accepted Christianity very early. So because when you look at most colonization missions, they were spreading Christianity, and Ethiopia had already accepted Christianity, there was not a major effort or need to colonize Ethiopia because it had already accepted the idea of Christianity. The first Christians in the world were actually Armenians, located in modern-day Armenia, which is not in Africa and is actually in the Caucasus Mountains, or the mountains of Caucasus, or the Caucasian Mountains. These people were not Africans. Therefore, Christianity that we now know today and that we study today is not African culture and did not originate in Africa. We did have our own cultures, we did have our own belief systems, we did have our own story of the Most High or Messiah, we did have our own creation stories of how things came about, that many Europeans came over into Africa, learned from, added to their books, called it Christianity, and then wrapped it up and gave it back to us as if it came from them. So yes, you can find much of our culture in their religion, but that does not mean that their religion is our culture or is our religion.